Hey, welcome back guys. This is Jason, KM4ACK. Today, let's talk about field day, what I'm going to use for a radio this year, and my personal challenge. Stick around and we'll get right to it. Real quick before we get going today, I've got to give a shout out to these guys. They're my latest patrons over on Patreon. If you'd like to help support the channel, I'll leave a link to Patreon down in the description below. So each year I try to come up with my own personal field day challenge, and this year is no different. Now, in the past, starting with my second field day, I really didn't operate on the first field day. I just kind of went and observed, got a feel of what field day was all about. But starting with my second field day, I built a go box. I think for the next field day after that, I started trying to work off of batteries. Then the following year, I started incorporating solar. So every year I've tried to push further and further and present myself with a new challenge. And I have learned a ton over the years from these personal challenges. Well, this year I was kind of looking around trying to figure out what I might want to do. One thing I had kicked around in the past was working strictly with my mobile equipment. This is something that I've never done before, and I spend a lot of time in my vehicle, and it would just be nice to really know what those capabilities are and how we could improve the system should we need to use it in some sort of an emergency situation. So I decided this year we're going to work strictly with the mobile. Now, if you've been following the channel for very long, you may have seen some of my mobile setup in the past. My primary 2-meter rig inside the Jeep is the Yaesu FTM 400. And I absolutely love that rig on a day-to-day basis. It gives me both 2-meter and 440 capability, along with being an APRS rig. In addition to the FTM 400, I also run the Yaesu 857D. And this is the primary HF rig, but it also serves as a secondary 2-meter 440 rig. Now, connected to the 857, of course, I've got a Raspberry Pi 4 in the Jeep full time, and this has all of the standard accessories that go with it, power, sound cards, GPS unit, everything one needs to operate mobile. Now, while I could operate just from the Jeep battery and maybe crank the engine every hour or so to recharge that battery, I am going to use, instead of using that Jeep battery, I am going to use some of my other batteries that I do have on hand. Probably going to use the Miyati 16 amp hour battery to power both the radio and the Raspberry Pi. In addition to the Miyati battery, I will go ahead and incorporate both a solar panel to keep that battery topped off and the PowerPole Buddy Mini to kind of give me a readout of everything, how much solar I'm taking in, how much battery I've used, and it works as the charge controller for the battery. So that is one little area that I'm going to deviate. Instead of using strictly my mobile equipment, I am going to add that extra battery in there. That way I just don't have to worry about the Jeep's battery being run dead. Now let's talk about antennas for a moment. As we all know, a mobile antenna is a severely compromised antenna, and my mobile is no exception. I am running the little Tar Heel 2 screwdriver antenna on the back, and that antenna is good 6 meters through 80 meters if I remember correctly. Now, normally I just run the extended whip with the little Tar Heel 2. It comes with a standard whip, and then you can, in addition to the standard, you can purchase the extended whip, which is a bit longer. Don't remember the exact dimensions. But even with that extended whip, we've still got a really compromised antenna. So part of the experimenting that I want to do on field day is to see how we could improve that antenna to make it more efficient. And I've got a few ideas in mind. Now, in the past, I have done some experimenting where I just attach a wire to the top of the little Tar Heel antenna. So I remove that extended whip that I would normally run while mobile, and then put this wire in place of it. And this gives me pretty good NVIS communications. But I want to go a little bit further with that this year. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some counterpoise wire. And I think that will give me a better signal out having more counterpoise. The downside to the Jeep Wrangler is there's just not a lot of metal on that body to act as a counterpoise. Since I have the soft top, I'm just lacking a lot of the metal that other vehicles may have. Now, in addition to running the horizontal wire and the counterpoise, the one other thing that I want to try is adding one of the MFJ 17-foot telescopic whips to the top of the Tar Heel. This is going to do a couple of things. Using that 17-foot whip, I should basically be able to take the coil portion of that screwdriver antenna out of the equation. We know that that is less efficient than having actual wire up in the air. So I'm going to be able to remove that coil. The other thing is it's going to perform differently than the horizontal wire. While the horizontal wire gives me great NVIS communication, that vertical whip should allow me to reach out a bit further. So I'm excited about getting out there and trying some of these different configurations with the little Tar Heel antenna to see what may work and what may not work. Can I improve on that antenna? I don't know, but that's going to be the challenge for this year. So what are your plans for Field Day? What are your personal challenges that maybe you're setting forth for yourself? Or do you just get into it for the contesting aspect of Field Day? I'm curious to see what you guys are going to do. Leave it down in the comments below. I hope this video gives you some ideas. If you found it helpful, give us a thumbs up before you head off. We will see you guys on the next one. Until then, 7-3.